afternoon. I'm Dan Conover. Today I'll be providing a synopsis of my career outlook of a programmer business report. Points we'll discuss are the stigma surrounding the career choice, educational requirements, we'll compare salaries, and then we'll look at the 10-year growth rate for um, prospective careers in the programming field. I I chose three: the software engineer, the database administrator, and the web developer that we'll be just going into more detail today and throughout my business report. Start off with the stigma of any time you tell someone that you're going into programming, computer programming, or any sort of web development, they say that it wouldn't be me, wouldn't be them, they couldn't do that. Just because it kind of takes a weirdo to find interest in it and to want to do it and to be able to do it. It's long days indoors by yourself a lot of the times, where it's just you solving problems. A lot of the times, solving problems that other people have solved before. You just need to figure out how they did that. Um, Everyone says they couldn't do it, but it's really not bad. It's not bad. Most of the time, I get to my second job where I'm a cook. It's a night shift. I get there, they ask how my day's gone, and I come from a long day of working on my programming classes in the morning, and I just can't even find my voice most of the time, as I have yet to speak a word through the day, and it's already 5, 6 p.m. Just a small testament to just you kind of have to, I don't know. It's weird. It can become very reclusive if you don't keep up on it. Nextly, we'll just talk about the education requirements to become a programmer. For the most part, you can get most of the jobs with a bachelor's degree and job experience, just mostly through networking and getting your foot in the door. By starting is the best way to climb the ladder. Um, any every business has their own systems, and there are thousands of different programming languages. So it's not necessarily enough just to say you know a couple, you know this, you know Python, you know C, C sharp, C++. You need to show the business that you have the ability to learn the way they do it and how they do it, because theirs is always going to be a little bit different than what you already know. You can get basic jobs, entry level with anything, of course, but you could start getting your foot in the door with an associate's degree and start off with something like web development. Obviously, it'll pay the least, but an associate's degree really only takes you around 2 years, and that's not that bad, especially when it's mostly intro to computer courses or anything that you'd be able to pick up. If it was a hobby of yours, you'd be able to catch up in a month if you really had to start a job of it too. Bachelor's degree really is to show that you've the commitment to see it through even when it gets hard when it comes to programming. Not just that you can type on the computer, but that you can put it down and come back to it. You know how to solve the problems that you're faced. It's not all just mindless going through. Most of these really just require the same computer science bachelor's degree, but of course you can specialize in something like an information science or software engineering specifically. Of course, all of these are pretty solid salaries that we're looking at here. Um, the two higher ones we've got, the software engineer and the database administrator. Those obviously require at a minimum a bachelor's degree. Where a web developer, you could get your foot in the door with only an associate's. Again, everyone's just looking for experience and the ability to learn. If you have both, you're great. If you have one or the other, you should at least get a chance. The software engineer brings home about $105,000 a year off only a bachelor's degree. I say only lightly because we're working our butts off for it. Um, but none of these, like I said, none of these are anything to scoff at. They're all well worthwhile. They're all very vindicating how of how I'm investing my money. I'm investing in an education, and ideally it'll pay off to any sort of degree like these are shown here. Lastly, we've got our rate of growth. And the average rate of growth throughout our country for a career is about 5% over the next 5 to 10 years, which is pretty solid. 20 people for every 100 added to a field. But even the lowest rate of growth in the programming field in our example shown is still over 50% greater than the average. So I'm not sure how to, that data just speaks for itself that these jobs are hiring. These businesses need people to do this work. Nobody wants to be the tech person, and that's okay because I quite like it inside. I'm happy to do it, in fact. All of these have a great rate of growth. Most lucrative, again, is the software engineer, where it's got a rate of growth over 3 times that of the national average. Just at this point, if it's something you have gotten aptitude for, and you're somewhat interested in it, it'd be foolish not to because of this rate of growth, the potential earnings, and the floor for the educational requirements. As I just said, it'd be almost foolish not to. All you need to do to become one is be able to have the ability to solve a problem and find the solution. You don't need to have the solution. You need to know where the solutions are, and oftentimes that's a much more translatable skill than just having the solution, because when you're faced with new problems, you're going to need to find those solutions, and there is no person on earth who has all of them. So knowing where to find them is an incredibly important skill. Being able to think about your problems differently than you were before, also in the sense of abstract thinking, comes in handy, because if you're thinking about them the same way and you're not solving them, you must be thinking about them the wrong way. You have to do what others have not done, ergo, do what yourself has not done to achieve what you have not achieved, even in the terms of thinking. You have to think what you haven't thought to do what you haven't done. Lastly, you need some pretty good math skills in order to know, because when it comes to programming, you have to know what you want to do with the program. The computer doesn't do anything magically. You have to teach the computer how to do those things. So, in many ways, you have to be almost smarter than the computer, but really, the computer is paired with the ability to learn, which is just fantastic. My sources for this are going to be the same as my business report, my works cited sheet. Thank you.